this. We're live.
We're good? Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of The Magic Box. I am Tristan Sean Gregson here with Kyle Eck, as always, to talk Cube, to talk Magic in general. We'll start out today's show. I'm going to like to thank the guys over at Brainstorm Brewery at GatheringMagic.com. I actually just finished up a guest spot on their podcast where they talk Magic Finance. So all those questions that we would get here at this show, like, what do I do with my Riles Erics? Should I get them now? Should I get them later?
Yeah.
Hopefully that kind of stuff is covered in a podcast like that, so check that out in the near future. In a podcast like that. Beyond that, we've got topics galore, maybe, for you today. We're talking about
a potpourri of subjects.
Yeah, we've got the top four of You Make the Card, and how our feelings break down on those. We've got M14 spoiler updates galore, it feels like. There's been a ton of new cards. And the big topic for today, one that's kind of come up in passing the last few weeks, is Vintage dead? And moreover, is Cube really the new Vintage? How do those things interconnect? Where do those communities blend? Where are they segregated? What's the future going to look like? So, there we have it. I don't think I'm missing anything else. Don't really need to talk about Modern Masters. That doesn't really apply to us at all.
No. It applies in the, like you were just talking about, the finance sense.
For your Cube, maybe?
Yeah, because, obviously, reprints are going to lower the price of some of the outliers. So.
I will say, to go off on a mild tangent, in Mark Rosewater's article from this Monday, there was talk, he had a hidden clue to what his preview card for next week would be. And the community had kind of boiled it down, and it's most likely Doubling Season.
Oh, really?
And a card like Doubling Season...
I hadn't even seen that.
...isn't exactly a Modern Masters kind of modern staple kind of card, but more of what I consider to be a card printed in the modern era of Magic that's very popular and maybe worth something. So in that regard, you kind of have to ask the question of... You're looking for you make the card update?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that it's already gone. You got to ask yourself, how do you feel about that in the set? Is having $20, $25 casual rares something that you like in Modern Masters? Does that really fit with what you feel like the tone of the set would be, or is it kind of more of a diverging from what's I want modern playable staple cards. I don't want cards that... Does it just say, the vote is over?
This is the... Keep talking.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Ignore me.
Eck is finding the information on the top four of You Make the Card. So yeah, I was surprised at... that's actually more of a talking point than I thought it was going to be in terms of what the expectations might be of Modern Masters. But I think that's not really a big topic for us in the Cube cast. Obviously the goal... for us is we want card availability to be as high as possible so people will be able to build cubes, play with those cards, etc., etc.
Plus new art, always kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a circumstance in which I would want to switch out
an older for
an older. 99 times out of 100, I am an original printing purist, mostly because that's where my deepest connections with a card come from.
I agree with that for the most part. I am, however, a huge sucker for the judge foils that they've done, where it's the old frame, old artifact frame, sort of Fire Nice, or old frame Bear Confidant, old frame Noble Hierarch. Those to me look really, really, really cool.
Noble is probably my favorite of those because it's the least intrusive to the rest of the card. It just takes the design and brings it back to what we loved of Magic. I think that's a bit of an outlier, actually. I think that the Judge Foil Dark Confidant kind of skirts that line where there's all this extra DCI inking and stuff on it. But again, for the most part, 99 times out of 100, if it's original artwork versus a new printing of a card, I'm going to stick with original artwork. However, there have been times where it's Pro Tour Eternal Dragon. The artwork looks so superior to what I feel like. F&M Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah.
And maybe a Johnny Goldmane. I don't know. I have more of an affinity for a Johnny Goldmane, the Pro Tour foil, because I played in that season, so
yeah.
I really like that one.
I don't know.
But again, 99 times out of 100, original artworks going with it.
Sure.
And there could be, to me, maybe in Modern Masters, there is something a lot that's going to be that Bloodbraid Elf caliber.
Right, it's going to be some awesome looking thing.
Yeah, that we'll switch to. But as the room populates here, we'll switch over to pick one, pack one from the cube of the day. Let me know what we're looking at, Eck.
So for today's pick one, we have Forbid, Bloodline Keeper, Wormcoil Engine, Demonic Tutor, Sinkhole, Sword of Light and Shadow, Goblin Settler, Spellskite, Dralna
Blood
Chief.
Chief. Oh, no, something Blood Chief.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Go on.
Rewind, Ernim Djinn, Daze, Sulfur Elemental, Windswept Heath, and Balance.
Well, personally for me,
good pack.
Calastria Blood Chief.
Drawn a Calastria
Blood
Chief.
Chief.
There we go. Something like that.
I mean, this is an easy and saucy balance.
Interesting. I don't necessarily think it's that easy that it's balanced.
Okay, well, it's good, because if it wasn't, then this wouldn't be much of a pack.
Like, the three cards that jump out to me in terms of power level in this pack are Balance, Demonic Tutor, and Wormcoil Engine. And of those three, there are basically no decks where I'm not going to play Demonic Tutor, and there are very few decks where I'm not going to play Wormcoil Engine, but there are plenty of decks where I'm not going to play Balance.
I'm probably going to agree with you there. Although I can't imagine a cube deck and where I'm not playing Wormcoil Engine. Even if I'm mono red aggro, don't have a card in my deck that costs less than 3 mana, and I have the Fire Blast. Like, I still want the Wormcoil Engine in my deck because
just in case.
Anytime that you are going to get flooded and be able to cast it, it's going to be so good. It's just that's. I mean, Wormcoil Engine has always been the everyman's Titan. It's hard to shy away from that. I mean, and now we're looking at a circumstance where we just have to match it up right against Demonic Tutor and Cube, which is a big deal.
I just think like Demonic Tutor is so powerful. I mean, obviously its power level depends on what else you draft, but like it fits in every deck. It's insane. It's fast enough where it doesn't really disrupt your curve very often. You know, it's just
sorry. I'll let you finish.
It's just excellent. I like like I said, there's not a single deck where unless I have no access to black mana and I have really strong color commitments in other colors, and there's no way I can splash it, I always want to try and fit Demonic Tutor in my deck.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm still taking that balance just because even my draft deck from last week's Cube League was an excellent example of how ridiculous balance can be. I had the
I mean, balance obviously can be very, very powerful, but if you don't feel like drafting like a control deck or a balanced kind of centric deck, maybe one of the other options. I don't feel like you're giving up a ton on power level by taking like Demonic Tutor or Wormcoil Engine over balance. They just kind of fit into different strategies, and it becomes more of like a personal preference thing. Like, I'd almost rather just take Demonic Tutor so that I can decide what I'm going to play later on in my picks.
That's fine. You're pick one, pack one. You're never wrong for taking Demonic Tutor, and you're pretty much never wrong for taking Wormcoil Engine. I mean, outside of maybe the top 20 or 30 cards in Cube on pick one, pack one, which is probably something we should probably just make a list of and put in the show. Wormcoil Engine, Demonic Tutor are right there as far as you can't go wrong by taking those cards right out of the gate. No one's going to look at your pool later and be like, oh, why? What's this Wormcoil Engine doing here? What's this Demonic Tutor being here? Like, I see you have a Demonic Tutor in your mono white, creature pool. Like, oh, I take it first, and things went a different direction. No one's gonna say that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it more, like I was saying, like, I've had times where I take balance, right? Like, early on in a draft, like, oh, it's the best card in the pack, I'll take balance, like, sweet. But then, like, just kind of the way cards come down, or as the draft continues, and then you kind of, like, lay it out at the end, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Balance is horrible in this deck. Like, it requires like a very specific construction, which doesn't always come up.
It's no Hero Blade Hold, as Grand Prix Portland winner Sam Party would tell us. Sorry, there's just a very famous Team Rochester draft where we were on the same team and we opened a pack that had Balance and Hero, and he was playing white. It was like probably near the middle of the draft, and I was like, "You have to take Balance. Balance is just so good. Like, you can so build your deck around it." He begrudgingly took it, wanting the Hero Bladehold in the pack, and then ended up not playing the Balance in his deck and complained the entire day about how much he wished it was a Hero Bladehold.
Yeah, I mean, Balance is very good, but if you like, it's never a good idea to think in absolutes, right?
No, I mean, with like mana rocks and just kind of heading towards more control-ish powerful creatures, like that balance
absolutely.
just screams to me that's the card I want out of this pack. But, it's excellent. I'm glad we have different picks, and we have, what I feel like clear reasons for those picks today. So I'm going with Balance, you're going with DT?
Yeah.
And someone gets an amazing second or third pick Wormcoil Engine.
So, yeah, someone, like, down the road is going to be very confused. Like, the third pick out of that pack, someone's going to just be like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, that happens in Cube all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Also, for this week's episode, the key drinking phrase, if you're playing along with the drinking game at home, is every time X says the phrase, you know. Because we're here and not everyone knows, so you should just tell them.
Let them know.
You should just tell them. Someone earlier in the week had reminded me that. It's always,
I see.
Anytime you could catch us on a phrase that we overuse in the show,
it becomes a drinking phrase?
Instantly the drink phrase for the next show.
Alcoholic Pee Wee Herman show. Alright, so shall we get into the scenario?
So we have two scenarios. Now, that was my pack from a draft, and I took that Balance. In that same draft, we're actually going to see a scenario that's a few picks down the road.
So, this is said scenario. So, in this pack now, we have 4 cards so far. The cards that we have are Balance, Chandra and Alar, Moat, and Winds of Wrath.
Strong. Control.
This is your favorite archetype. I already know what you're taking in this pack, too.
Okay.
This pack contains Geralf's Messenger, Gorehouse Chainwalker, Celestial Colonnade, Twilight Mire, Apocryphite, Upheaval, Gale Powder Mage, Temple Garden, Scroll Rack, Palinchron, and Sylvan Library. What are you taking? Why?
I think it's either Celestial Colonnade or Scroll Rack.
I pegged you as a Scroll Rack man. I'm willing to go on record here to say that I really do not like Scroll Rack at all.
Okay.
It is, to me, just the dirtliest of all dirtles. It is the mayor of Dirtletown.
Look, in like a week and a half, we're adding 5 more fetch lands to the cube, and you're still gonna try to crap on Scroll Rack. Okay, well,
like I would much rather just take Apocryphite.
Okay. I mean, no, Apocryphite's a fine card to take out of this pack. I think that I could take Sylvan Library with the hope to get maybe that Temple Garden to come back or another green-white land. Like, as soon as I take Balance and I'm moving into a Balance deck, I want to take as many artifact and enchantment cards as possible.
Right, I understand that.
Because they dodge the balancing. That way you can dump your hand and effectively attempt to mind twist your opponent, while at the same time Wrath of Godding them. And then if you can go for the complete trifecta of somehow getting them, then you've money in the bank this one card.
I mean, absolutely. And I'm not saying that Skorak is not a better card with the card Balance, but in this deck, I would rather have Apocryphite, because this deck also tends to be very slow. And Apocryphite is a excellent speed bump that can also double as a win condition.
Granted, this deck is 4 magic cards, so it's not really a deck yet.
But the way this archetype always comes down the pipe. Like, you already have a Chandra and Alar, and red-white is typically where you want to be in like this kind of balance deck.
Well, why red?
Because you can have things like the Wildfires are good there, the Earthquake, like additional sweepers like the Earthquake, the Rolling Earthquake.
Now, it's good to point out that the Wildfires play well with the mana rocks. You're going to be evaluating,
right?
To be higher picks because you have a card like Balance already. So I will give you that tends to lead towards more Boros, like the big red-white play style. Heaven forbid you get the Greater Gargadon.
Also, typically, if you were a white-blue deck, you're going to have a lot more card drawing, and you're going to have a lot more incentive to keep cards in your hand. Counter spells. That's true. Bounce, stuff like that. Whereas in red-white, you don't necessarily have that tendency. Like, many more of your cards are going to be things you deploy like immediately, and you're not necessarily worried about like keeping a full grip to respond to what your opponent's doing.
Right.
So it plays better with the balance.
Right. One of the other things you don't balance when you resolve balance is life totals. So if you can find ways to cast your lightning bolts, your stagger shocks before casting balance, is another way to get that Wrath of God and that Mind Twist at the same time.
Yeah.
When your opponent's at 5 and you're at 15 or something.
Right.
I concur. To me, I'm snapping off the score rack because I still feel like I'm playing like a moat balance kind of combo control deck in a way. Like the combo is to set up the soft lock if my opponent can't do anything.
Right. I mean, and I get that. I just think that like this deck, I mean, it is one of the slower archetypes in Cube. It's not the slowest, but it's certainly not the fastest. And having a card like Apocryphite, which is not only an excellent speed bump, but it doubles as a win condition.
One of the best speed bumps in Cube, also known as the Jesus artifact, for those that aren't familiar at home. On the third day, he always rises to the battlefield again.
Yeah, and he just really like this deck. I'm always happy to have Apocryphite. Stuff like Wall of Omens is also good here. Obviously,
a little less excited about Wall of Omens because...
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, because you want balance to be completely one-sided all the time.
Well, if you don't get all the creatures with balance, you usually lose.
That's not true.
One of the few times... Okay, so in the draft, the deck I drafted last week, which was the Oath, I had Oath, plus I had balance, plus I had Zurin Orb. When I would Oath with one creature on the board, it was usually Frost Titan, so whatever the creature my opponent kept on the battlefield, it was effectively locked down anyway. So, like, there are rare circumstances like that, but we're getting too much into, like, drafting a specific deck. You take Apocryphite out of this pack. Mm-hmm. I take Skorak out of this pack. I like both. They're colorless. We're not necessarily going red-white with the Chandra, although we're very reticent of the fact that we're looking to kind of go into this kind of big red-white archetype to take advantage of cards like Balance to their best possible use, as well as, Moat and Planeswalkers.
I'm a big fan of this nickname for Apocryphite, by the way.
Tupocryphite.
I like it.
Never dies.
Alright.
So that's scenario 1. Scenario 2... Ooh.
This is a saucy one. When we were putting it together, I was like, ooh.
This one apparently is very interesting to Eck. Tell the people what we're looking at home.
Okay, so, same situation. You've got 4 cards you're looking at a new pack. The cards that you have right now are Shrine of Burning Rage, Ancestral Recall, Consecrated Sphinx, and Cryptic Command. The pack you open, or get past, rather, is Huntmaster of the Fells, Ancient Tomb, Careful Consideration, Unburial Rites, Niv Mizzet Draco Genius, Molten Steel Dragon, Journey to Nowhere, Warren Powerstone, Oracle of Moldiah, Scepter of Dominance, Dismiss.
So you took a Shrine of Burning Rage's first pick, being like, I'm going to draft the sweet red deck. You immediately took a left turn into Ancestral Recall,
because that's what
Consecrated Sphinx, Cryptic Command. It wasn't like a brief nudge into blue, being
it's not like you went red card, blue card, red card, red card.
Yeah,
you just went completely like.
This also looks like a pretty standard play for me.
One of the nice things about Shrine of Burning Rage, though, is that you've got 3 blue cards. You're still probably playing the Shrine of Burning Rage.
Yeah, Shrine of Burning Rage is just that good. You can play it in the mono blue deck. So I don't feel. I mean, the other nice thing is there are kind of 3 red cards in this pack, but at the same time, there's kind of 0 red cards in this pack.
I look at it as, the obvious pick here with your card that wants a bunch of red spells and all your blue is like, oh, just take the Miss Draco Genius, like it's red blue. But I think that while we could even argue that we want it, or like that would be a way to go, I think we can get it on the wheel.
Agreed.
Because it's not super popular, and double blue, double red is just so hard to cast that not a lot of other people are going to be picking it up.
I just see so many permutations of this draft where I don't end up playing Niv Mizzet. Not only am I not taking it, I'm not at all concerned with it coming back on the wheel one way or the other. Like, probably it will. Probably I'll take it, and then who knows? But it's nothing I'm banking on right here. I'm not looking at that card. I'm dismissing Dismiss because it's just an inferior Cryptic Command.
You can't have too many 4-mana counter spells.
I think you can have too many 4-mana.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, you can have.
You cannot successfully draft a deck that has a bunch of 4-mana counter spells. So you have to pick and choose, and you already have the best one.
So Dismiss is out of the equation.
You know what I like here is Journey to Nowhere.
Okay, I can get behind that.
That's obviously a bit of like a another turn. There's no reason we don't have any white cards yet for this red card, but Journey is just excellent removal.
Premier removal.
It's cheap enough that we could play it and leave Counter Magic open because that's clearly kind of where we're going with this deck. Blue-white's obviously very good. But, again, we don't even necessarily commit to blue-white. Like, we could just splash it. Like,
right.
If we see
we're blue-red, we can find a way to play it. We're
right.
blue anything, we find a way to play it. I think that Journey is probably my... it's probably my third pick in this pack. I mean, I'm taking Ancient Tomb
really
pretty clearly. Like, I want to get to that Consecrated Sphinx as fast as possible. Because that card is just such a beating. And if I'm playing blue... If I'm playing heavy blue, I want to be able to catch up.
I like Oracle Mulnaya here also. If you wanted to play, like, blue-green is also fun, and that's a great way to get to Consecrated Sphinx quickly. My biggest problem with Ancient Tomb in, like, the control deck, which is kind of very clearly, like, where we're kind of headed with this, with our Cryptic Command and our Consecrated Sphinx.
We could just be, like, superior blue spells tap out. Like, we have a counterspell, but we have the counterspell that also functions as every other modal effect. Like,
but it's also horrible.
It can be fog. It can be capsize. It can be all these things. And when I draft a Consecrated Sphinx, I'm not super stoked to play Consecrated Sphinx in the I'm going to hold all the counterspells all day long deck. Because I never feel like there's a good time to cast it.
In this deck, very often looking at those cards and kind of thinking, okay, what's my deck going to look like down the road? I don't want lands that cause me damage. Like, I don't think this is going to be a deck that takes maximum effective for Ancient Tomb. And also, it's probably not going to be winning quickly enough to completely mitigate the life loss.
See, I think it's early enough in the draft that I can use it to my advantage. Like, I'm taking this Ancient Tomb. This isn't like pick 35, where I have just all blue and red mana symbols or all blue and white mana symbols. I know that I can start to, kind of move things that direction. Now, when I open up that pack 2 and it has a Wormcoil Engine in it, that Wormcoil Engine's stock has just gone through the roof because I have an Ancient Tomb, as well as any kind of shields up maneuver kind of cards that we can kind of power out a little bit faster with a card like Ancient Tomb. Now, again, if I wasn't taking Ancient Tomb, I would probably take the Careful Consideration, and then if I wasn't taking Careful Consideration, I would probably take Journey to Nowhere in that order. I agree with you completely about premier removal spells. If you're playing the blue deck, being able to answer things on the cheap and very efficiently, Journey is that card. And then from there, you get all kinds of dirtily with things like Oracle and Morn Power Stone, or just going off the deep end with Molten Steel Dragon to try to get him.
I do love a Molten Steel Dragon.
Yeah. So I'm going with Tomb. That's my pick.
I think I'm gonna go with Journey. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with Journey. I could also see if you really like the blue-green deck, Oracle is certainly very powerful, and nothing wrong with taking that. I think the blue cards, specifically in this pack, are a trap.
The 2 blue cards, because they both cost 4?
Well, and one is effectively a sorcery. Like, Careful Consideration is something you're more often than not casting in your main phase.
Maybe. Like, I don't know. I could see both.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
powering through as always.
Mm-hmm.
Since you have you make the card up, should we just go to there?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about that.
Just in case you're listening to this, watching this for the first time, you're not all familiar with You Make the Card. Wizards has graciously let us as a community, guiding us slowly towards a Magic card they deem appropriate to make.
What's interesting is I didn't really read this that closely the first time around. Eldritch Rights, which won the vote by a pretty big margin, was disqualified.
I had heard about that, but I also had not read it.
Yeah, so Demonic Bargain snuck in, which is sweet because that's the one I voted for.
Oh, I didn't even realize. So why don't you catch the people up at home on what 4... We're down to 4 black enchantments. We're just picking rules text at this point. What do you like here, Eck? Or what do we have to choose from?
What do we got? So, they're doing it's bracket style, so these are heads-up matchups, you vote for which one you prefer. The first heads-up is Consuming Contract, which is at the beginning of your upkeep, choose one, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, or destroy target creature, or blank third thing they haven't picked yet, or you lose the game, and you cannot choose the same mode twice. Blood in the Watering Can is a competitor. It's at the beginning of each end step. If you've lost life this turn, you can return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And the other pairing, we've got Revenge of Necromancy, which is whenever an opponent discards a creature, put a 2/2 black zombie into play. Whenever they discard a land, add 2 black mana to your mana pool. And whenever they discard a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. And the last one is Demonic Bargain, which enters the battlefield with X counters on it. Beginning of your upkeep, remove a counter, and then draw a card. If it has no counters left on it, you sacrifice the enchantment, and an opponent gets a 5/5 indestructible black flying demon token.
I think Demonic Bargain of the last 4 standing is probably the one that I'm most excited about. I think it's really going to come down to that. Although
it's unfortunate because I like
both
the bottom Revenge
two?
of Necromancy and Demonic Bargain, and we can only get one because of that pairing.
It feels. I mean, I'm really surprised that the Consuming Contract card made it to the round of 4. I think that maybe for the players out there, the blank on there is really like this open book that they feel like you could make anything out of.
My problem with the blank is that there's an asterisk. That ability was originally cast a spell without paying its mana cost,
right? Which is now
too powerful,
right?
So the problem I have here is what ability are they going to put there that makes suspend 4 you lose the game worth playing? So when there was a conversation on Reddit about what that should be, what that ability should be,
and what was the consensus the Reddit community came to?
It was very people had all these different ideas, zombify a guy, do this, do that, search your demonic tutor, search for a thing, whatever. And my opinion on that ability is that, even if it was cast a spell without paying its mana cost, that to me doesn't even it's obviously very out of line with the other two in terms of power level, but it's not too good to put on a card that says suspend 4 you lose the game. So I would rather have that ability be some significant cost that you pay and get rid of it. If you have at least 3 cards in your hand, discard 3 cards, then return Consuming Contract to your hand.
That's too good.
So you have to discard 3 cards to get it back?
We had this conversation last week where I was like, I think you could sacrifice X permanents. We just need to define what X is. Maybe it's 5. Sacrifice 5 permanents.
And then return to your hand?
No, that's it.
But then you still lose the game the next turn.
Why?
Oh, because you can sacrifice this, you mean?
Yeah.
But that's horrible. So now you're playing an enchantment that is draw 2, lose 2, and destroy a guy. You sacrifice 5 permanents, and this takes place over 3 turns?
Maybe it's not 5. Maybe it's 4.
Maybe it's 1.
Maybe it's each player sacrifices 5 permanents.
That is so effing bad. The first 2 abilities on this card are just so underwhelming to me that...
Yeah, I don't know why it couldn't have just been draw 2 cards.
Or, there's just nothing about this card that screams that I want to put it in a deck on power level.
I'm still the most confused why it made it to the round of 4. I'm actually most surprised that it made it to the round of 8, just because it's one of those cards that forces the players in the game to keep track of modes used once over.
Right, it's going to be convoluted to keep this in play.
I mean, in a 6-player EDH game where it's your turn comes up every 20 minutes,
or if you bounce I returned it to his hand. Does he get to choose the new modes because it's the same thing or whatever? It's just this card was just very. I'm just unexcited by it.
Meh.
I wasn't a big fan of the Blood in the Watering Can either.
I don't know. I mean, we already kind of touched on how good it is with fetch lands. I think that this is going to be way more of a Vanish into memory than it is going to be a Crucible of Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty clear.
I think we kind of came to that realization when we saw exactly what the top 8 choices were.
None of the top 8 were really, thrilling to me.
You can't. I mean, I like.
This made me greedy. I would have taken any number of art submissions over these.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely want Consuming Plague over any of these cards. But I mean, these are way more creative and deeper than the kind of seemingly.
I thought mine were creative.
No, yours was sweet. I really liked yours actually. But we're working with what we have.
It's hard also when looking at these cards because we don't know their mana costs, and I think that part of my envisioning them is what can I see them costing this at?
Yeah, that's the other problem.
So like
is
that's
when
the
we
problem
try
I
to
see. Like
pick-
looking at Blood in the Watering Can, in my head, I can already see this card costing 4 and a black, and that's putrid.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to cost 3 or less because it's too powerful.
Really.
Oh yeah, like you said, fetch land. That's really good.
But I mean, you still have, it only returns it to your hand. It's like, let's say, turn 1. What are you gonna do? Like Entomb Gristlebrand, and then you like get it back on a fetch land? Like,
So you return to your hand.
yeah, I mean, like that's not
No, but
ridiculous.
like
Like
it's just like a very good value card. Like
late in the game, it is.
even in the mid.
So you have to make it cost a lot so that there aren't like value turns where you get to cast it, but you don't even trigger it until end of turn.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't like cast it for 2, trigger it, get a guy back, cast that guy with your remaining 3 or 4 mana, and then do something. Like, obviously this card is going to be either played early in a game when you're not getting value out of it just because it's part of your curve, which is the most competitive way to cost the card, or you're going to make it cost a lot, 4 or more mana, and have it be a circumstance where you're going, more likely than not, you're going to cast it in the same turn where you're not doing anything else. Now, you know, you could still, on turn 5, cast it, activate Bargain or Necro or...
Yeah. I
Well-
mean, that's obviously very good. So in chat, someone mentioned this could cost black. I'd really prefer if, and this is just a personal preference for me, I feel like making everything that is black cost nothing but black mana is kind of, like, lame and kind of a cop-out. Like, not everything needs to be Necropotence and Phyrexian Obliterator. Like,
Yeah, and very few things are. It just happens to be that the best cards in black these days are the blackest cards.
I just saw a lot of submissions like on Twitter and other places that were just like random abilities, black, like and the cost is just all black mana.
There's something about this day and age where they feel like the black mage needs to be the blackest of mages. So, at the end of the day, still Blood in the Watering Can is the vote on the top portion. On the bottom portion, I'm going with Demonic Bargain.
Yeah, I like both of these cards though. Revenge of Necromancy is cool. I mean, just think of like the cornucopia of things that will happen when you cast Mind Twist.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, I could definitely maybe
that's
but
like super fun. Like, ooh, what do I get? What do I
the
get?
casual players don't like discard, so it's
But it made it through this round, right?
yeah, it's true.
Like that's it. I do like Demonic Bargain. I think Demonic Bargain is going to be a better card. Again, there's no specifying on how we get X counters on it. I would assume it's going to cost like X and a black mana, and at that cost, like that's a fine little temporary Phyrexian Arena kind of thing. That's flexible, you know.
I mean, just talk about a card that's full flavor, though. Like, that's what I really like about Demonic Bargain.
I like
if we're
that
gonna,
one, too.
If we're going to leave behind any hopes and dreams of having a competitive Magic card out of You Make the Card this round,
Get the flavor.
which we're pretty sure is where we're at right now, then you're going to want full flavor. If you're not going to have a card that's going to be a tournament staple, that's going to be, you know, a lot of competitive decks are going to want to play it, you're going to want to have something that, you know, at least the casual players are out there. It's like, oh yeah, you know, had the Demonic Bargain, like that was really cool. I felt like that was a magical set of circumstances.
Yeah. I do like the description on it that someone made, which is Aeon Chronicler, and they get the guy.
Yeah,
Like that's pretty accurate.
and like that all makes sense. The only thing that feels kind of out of flavor is that it's a black indestructible creature, but I feel like it kind of has to be in order for it to kind of have any chance of standing up against what would be black removal as you'd be drawing off these things. I think.
Sure.
I mean, no one wants to put hexproof on it, so
That's a horrible idea.
well, there you have it. That's the current update on You Make the Card. We would be interested to see Blood in the Watering Can and Demonic Bargain down the road, and then, you know, from
But
there.
who knows? Maybe one of the other ones will, and then we'll have a completely new conversation next week.
Yeah, Revenge of Necromance. I mean, hopefully we're a week away from, like, let's really talk casting costs and see if these cards have
Casting cost is definitely going to be an interesting
any
one.
chance of being cast outside of a nice long game.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get a range, and it's not going to be a wide one.
No, it won't be. Again, this isn't so much like you make the card from scratch as much as it's Wizard slowly guides you towards a card that they deem to be acceptable.
Yeah.
All right, well, that does it for You Make the Card. Do you want to move on to M14 spoilers, or do you want to go...
Yeah.
You've got M14 spoilers up on the screen already. We're just kind of... I mean, with Dragon's Maze, the way we broke down Mythic Spoiler, we just kind of glossed over pretty much every card as we went anyway, even though there's a lot that aren't cube considerations. But last week, we had Archangel of Thune, which was a great talking point, so we'll just kind of pick up on the spoiler from there. I don't really... There's a bit of like a mild beast theme in M14, which I can get behind.
Yeah.
I think on our lands episode, we talked briefly about Contested Cliffs.
Yeah.
And Contested Cliffs stock rised just a little bit every time that we saw...
500% to 5 cents.
I more meant like in a cube worthy of playing sense,
yeah.
not a value sense. I think that the card Contested Cliffs was already going to be worth more than that small move.
The core sets always just seem to have random tribal tribal elements in them.
I like that. I think that one of the things in the earliest days of Magic when I was playing, you saw Goblin King and you're like, I want to make a Goblin deck.
Right. It's the easiest thing to start new players on.
Right. I think that cards like Goblin King, Lord of Atlantis, Crusade are kind of those very first baby steps in deck construction.
But also even cards like Archangel of Thune. Right,
when
they have a very obvious, powerful effect on a trigger. Like, now I want to make a deck that gains a lot of life and gains it, in increments. Like, it's important for core sets to have those kind of put the ball on the tee and let players hit it. Kind of deck ideas.
But you also want them to be fun and engaging. Like, you don't want them to be so boring and mundane. Like, a lot of us know of Portal and remember how that kind of played out. And at the end of the day, Portal worked, but it wasn't the most exciting, engaging, and thought-provoking format of Magic ever.
No.
So with Core Set, at least there's more inklings of I want to know everything that beasts can do. I can put counters on them. I can make them do stuff, jump through hoops. I can get bonuses from having them. So
yeah. Although if they don't reprint Wirewood Savage, it's all going to be for naught.
That would be sweet for limited.
For limited,
Green really needs that.
Slivers versus Beasts.
So first from the new batch, we've got Mega Sliver.
Yeah. So these are the majority of cards that have been spoiled so far are kind of commons and uncommons, and I think most of these are also from.
Well, the 15th was the last time we talked about it.
Yeah.
We've got
super big Sliver.
Yeah, it's 6/6 vanilla 6/6 Sliver for 6, which I think is the pre-release card or something.
Something like that.
Yeah. So Slivers, they be everywhere. Last week's episode, if you haven't...
Important for Slivers, costing a single colored mana.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part of this card.
Don't go too far away from that theme, Wizards, if you're going to make us... we will get to the rest of the cards on the spoiler, all in due time.
We're going chronologically.
Yeah. So last week we talked about Slivers. Go back to that episode where we kind of recapped the Slivers currently in existence pre-M14. There's only a few select ones we were super stoked about back then, and a vanilla 6/6 for 6 isn't exactly breaking that mold.
No, but if you have a proper, if you were going to say I'm going to put Slivers into the cube, this is one you would put in there.
I would put this one in over Might Sliver.
Yeah, this one, it holds its own by itself. It's not exciting, but it's still a 6/6.
A vanilla 6/6?
Vanilla Titan? Whatever. It's not great.
The Titan of bland flavors.
It's not great, but the fact that it gives you such a huge upside if you're playing the Slivers thing.
Right.
If you wanted to do that, this would be a guy that you would add.
We have Awaken the Ancient, which is this triple red and a colorless for an aura that enchants a mountain and makes said mountain a 7/7 giant creature. And finally, on these enchant lands,
they give it haste.
Yeah, so it's no longer, you're not sitting on MTGO being
I feel like that's MTGO errata.
Exactly, you're hovering. Okay, that one says Summoning Sickness, so that was the one I played this turn. Hover. I just want to make sure. I don't want to put on the wrong one.
Oh, I misclicked.
I know. Activate Koth 4/4 with the yellow in the bottom. You're like, come on.
Yeah.
So as far as cube goes, I paid for Blistering Firecat, but I can't attack with it unless I have 5 mana, and it doesn't have any kind of evasion.
But it's also gonna live. There are a lot of cubes with say, I don't think this card costs 5, right? You should really be looking at it as that it costs 5.
Right.
So this is a lot more comparing it to say Thunderblust or Thundermaw Hellkite or something like that.
Both cards I would rather have in lieu of this card.
I don't know. I think I would rather have this than Thunderblast.
Well, okay. See, with like,
I mean, obviously, I'd rather have Thundermaw Hellkite than this, but
let's try to stop and compare it to its ancestors, being the Zendikons and the
Genju the Spires
and the Genjus. Just the Genjus in general. Because like we've talked on the show previously about running Genju the Cedars, and I would rather have a Genju of the Cedars over an Awaken the Ancients. I'd rather have a Genju of the Spires over an Awaken the Ancients every day of the week.
yeah, I mean, it's just a function of, you know, the Genjus especially, they're because they're so cheap, they're very much more about getting a threat, and you're not worried about keeping the land. Whereas this, like, the concern of the land dying in combat is pretty minimal. Like, obviously, like, it can get
but you get buyback on those Genjus.
Yeah, but, like, you're still throwing lands at your opponent. Like, they're just different, right? Like,
I guess this is like
this, you're converting one land into a guy, but, like, you're not constantly throwing more and more land at the problem. Like, I could see this fitting into a deck with a higher curve. Whereas, like, Genju, I don't want in a deck where anything costs 1/4. Like, I don't want this to be the top end. Like, I would rather have Genju of the Spires than this in, like, the aggressive red deck. But, like, in, like, the big red deck.
The Wildfire decks?
Right. Yeah, like, I would rather
just don't sack it as a land.
Yeah. It's not very exciting, but it's not, like, the worst thing I've ever seen either.
End of the day, it has no shot.
No. But, you know.
So we'll roll up
cycle of the boring whatnots.
We do get
raise the sliver alarm.
Yeah.
Or no, Master's Call. Sliver's Call.
Sliver's Call as a sorcery.
Double Strike Sliver.
Double Strike Sliver has come down in cost, which everyone's very happy about. It was previously Bone Scythe Sliver is the sliver in question.
2/2, 3 and a white. Double Strike.
Yeah. Now, previously, to get Double Strike on your slivers, you had to pay 6 mana, and you had a 3/3 in the form of Fury Sliver.
Right.
So, in that regard, definite upgrade.
Another one that I think...
It's weird that it's white to me. I don't...
Well, the Double Strike... Yeah, I don't know. It seems more white. I mean, like, Crixie Crusader was white. Or Mirror Crusader, that one. So, you know, he's fine. I mean, again, this is another sliver that kind of strikes me as, like, would be good enough if you are running slivers to be by himself. 2/2 Double Strike, not the worst thing in the world. Like, he's going to play decent defense.
He's a 4/2.
Yeah.
He's a giant cockroach.
I mean, he plays a lot better defense than Giant Cockroach. Be real.
All right. I do like this. We've struggled with the Wildfires and how they really fit into the cube, and we've played Goblin Goon, although we cut it in the most recent update. Now, a riff on that would be Halimar Watchkeep, and I think that Halimar Watchkeep kind of occupies very similar space to Goblin Goon. Now, it can always block, and in theory eventually attack, but it's just... Like the red aggressive decks can very rarely take advantage of it.
It's so bad outside of the Wildfire. Like, the trick is to find cards that are good for Wildfire that aren't blanks elsewhere.
Right, and in the red aggressive creature decks, you know, you're gonna hopefully either just straight up have more creatures than your opponents, or you're gonna be able to burn out your opponent's creatures to make Goblin Goon be able to attack. And I understand that Halimar Watchkeep is a different card. It seems equally as difficult to get going with less flexibility in, like, real cube matches.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't strike me as a card that I would ever want to play outside of the deck that has multiple Wildfires.
Yeah, I'm never the red mage, and I'm, like, super stoked to get either...
Sick. I have a 1/5.
Planeswalker heavy deck. Alright, moving on up.
Devout Invocation.
Is that even worth talking about? It's like...
Convoke for Angels.
7 mana sorcery where you can tap.
Untap any number of untapped creatures and you get 4/4 Angels for each one you do it for.
Yeah, that's not a cube card.
Costs 7.
Exactly.
Although, really, like, they can't make that cost much less and
have it be good.
Real.
Yeah.
Seraph of the Sword, the new Dawn Elemental kind of thing.
Poor Dawn Elemental.
Remember when this card cost 4 white mana? Now it costs 1 white mana.
But only the combat damage is prevented. How dare they?
Yeah. Johnny's Chosen is kind of cool.
Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a 2/2 white cat creature onto the battlefield. If that enchantment is an aura, you may attach it to the token.
It's like a weird beat-down enchantress.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that like
it's a hill giant, quite literally.
Yeah.
When it's not using its not so insane ability of making more grizzly bears. I'm not into it. I mean,
there just aren't enough enchantments in Cube.
Yeah.
It would be very difficult to make enough.
I'm just trying to brainstorm in my head, like, what would make this card cube-worthy? Like, what would you have to adjust on the stats on this card?
Add draw card.
Put a 2/2 to play and draw a card? And it still wouldn't make the cube. Because we have, like, a dozen auras. Most of them are, like, Arrest.
Yeah, but, like, Oblivion Ring with this thing, Journey to Nowhere with this thing, like, those are good.
Okay.
Here's a question. Is Strategic Planning playable for 3 mana?
No, it is not. That is
Alright,
the answer to that question. Yeah, Glimpse the Future, for everyone who doesn't want to shell out to get a Strategic Planning for their cube, which I recommend getting a Strategic Planning for your cube. It's a very good card. You can now pay an additional colorless to have that effect, should you choose to.
It is black bordered, which is relevant.
Very relevant.
So
we have a new Jace creature. We have Jace's Eel.
Jace's Mindseeker.
Jace's
Enter the
giant
battlefield,
eel.
Mill your opponent for 5. Cast an instant or sorcery from among them for free. For a 6 mana 4/4.
For a 6 mana air elemental, you get to mill your opponent for 5, and maybe cast an instant or a sorcery. I would rather have Gin of Wishes.
Yeah, and that hasn't been in a long time.
Remember when it was in?
I do.
Yeah. Remember when we would get it all the time and M10 sealed on
I think I set some kind of world record for number of Gin of Wishes open in M10 Limited. Not the worst thing to have a record of. I had more of those than most of the commons in the set.
There was like
That's not an exaggeration.
There was like 3 sealeds in a row that you hit it. At least one Gin of Wishes.
Yeah. Grim Return.
Choose target creature card in a graveyard that was put into there from the battlefield this turn. Put that card onto the battlefield under your control. So this is an instant.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't...
Get a guy that died this turn.
This is not a terrible card.
No.
It is not a spectacular card.
I mean...
It just seems like if
it
you're
combos with removal, which most things already do.
I thought you were going to say Revelark when you started with the sound.
Everything combos with Revelark.
Yes, it combos with Revelark, it combos with Muldrifter, it combos with
sure.
Siege Gang Commander.
Oh,
no.
What's his stupid? Deranged Hermit.
Yeah, Deranged Hermit. Ooh.
Bring back Big Combat for the
So
pump.
really what we're saying is the cards that are excellent with recurring
good cards
nightmare,
combo with this card.
This is like a strange one-shot. And I'm just trying to think of circumstances where you can like really get your opponent, because you can hit your opponent's creatures.
I think if you have Slaughter Pact in your cube, this card gets better.
Oh, okay.
Like, you have to figure out ways that you can realistically kill a guy and cast this in the same turn, because it's not going to be like, oh, I can rely on combat damage to get what I want into the yard. So, like, Slaughter Pact is a great way, like, starting on turn 3, you can immediately, like, smoke a guy, get something back if you need to. So, having more, like, if you also play Snuff Out,
yeah,
right, or even, like, Vendetta.
There are definitely opportunities to get some card advantage out of this card, where it's like, it's your opponent's first main, or any time prior, kill their guy. Like, okay, my guy is dead, wham, wham, wham. Attack you. You're like, okay, well, return your guy from the graveyard to the battlefield under my control. I will block.
Or, I mean, this is also good in situations where you can control your own creatures dying and want to use them again. Fulminator Mage, Avalanche Riders is also excellent with this. Any Ember Hauler, if you want to go real deep.
That's pretty deep.
Like Muldrifter, stuff like that, where you're kind of planning on your guys dying or planning on killing them to do something else.
I mean, there are plenty of just value creatures in Cube where it's like this card can do lots of stuff. I mean, Necromancy, Corpse Dance, those are very excellent cards, even when used. Like, you know, I mean, anytime you ever cast Necromancy at instant speed is really what we're looking at on this exact card.
But with additional restrictions.
Huh? No.
Well,
when you cast Necromancy as an instant, you're effectively casting... Well, okay, this card is better.
Well, it's better and worse.
How is it worse?
Because...
Oh, that has to have died this turn. All right.
Right. Versus you get to keep it forever.
Sorry, yeah. I was just thinking more along the lines of, like, you're killing stuff and... Things are dying a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know...
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Which is certainly more than I can say for a lot of these other
black
cards.
is still the most open color in terms of let's kind of mess with this space and figure out things to do with it. Mm-hmm. And we're already talking about, you know, more carrion feeder type Magic cards. We can reset our Geist Honored Monks more often. We can reset our Sun Titans more often. We can...
Technotron, sorry to interrupt. This does not actually do anything with Living End. Because Living End does not put cards from the battlefield into the graveyard. It exiles them and then changes their zones. So it does not trigger on-death effects. It does not trigger put into a graveyard from play, whatever. That doesn't work. The more you know.
This happens when you play Living End a lot in Modern.
Yeah, yes, actually. So moving on. Liliana's Reaver.
I have yet to read this card. So far, I see a 4-power guy for 4 mana with Death Touch.
And
That's also a zombie. So I feel strong right out of the gate. Now I'm going to read it and see how I feel when it's all said and done.
Okay, you go ahead.
When Liliana's Reaver deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card, and you put a 2/2 onto the battlefield tapped? Yes, Eck did say you know. That is a drink. But you guys are way too sober if you're still catching them at this point. This card is not terrible. Actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. I'm going to have to seriously look at the 4-drops in Cube. This might actually be a contender.
I mean, I might get tomatoes thrown at me for saying it, but I would much rather have this than Juzam.
You dick.
I went there.
At least say braids.
Well, obviously I want this one.
Oh my god, Eck, this card plays so good with braids.
Oh, yeah. That's what braids combos with more 4-drops.
It does. You always have 4. You never have more than 4, but you always have 4.
I do like this card, though. All kidding aside, I think that this is one that we'll probably be making room for.
Huh? Yeah. I mean, it's awkward because it's kind of maybe it's competing with Graveborn Muse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Graveborn Muse would love to see this card next to it on the battlefield.
Combo.
Which maybe means it's competing with Braids, which means I hate you, Liliana's Reaver. You go to hell and you die!
Oh god, Braids so bad. Rise of the Dark Realms, that's on a card.
So for 9 mana, you do something? Yeah, that's
9 mana, you get every card in every graveyard.
Every card?
Every creature.
Oh.
Sorry.
Had me going there for a second. So we have a new... What was the Gorehorn Minotaur? That was the Bloodthirst one. This guy, same casting cost. We got a 5/3. So it's a new Juggernaut?
It attacks each turn unless you control a creature named Advocate of the Beast.
Oh my god.
Who's down here.
We are so full of flavor. Who remembers Kukas and the Keeper of Kukas?
Ah, yeah.
Ah, yes. An excellent, excellent combination.
Keeper of Kukas has protection from red.
He can, if you pay red. Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's cute and full flavored. I love that as far as M14 goes in general, and we have more beasts for our buck.
Molten Birth. Put 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens onto the battlefield. Then flip a coin. Oh, I don't like it already. If you win the flip, return this to its owner's hand, and it costs 3 mana.
Oh, you're gonna head out to Cube for the night, Usman? I'm jealous. I'll say you have +1 viewer to your stream. Oh.
Molten Birth is interesting, but it says flip a coin on it.
So perhaps, do you remember Hanabi Blast?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like Hanabi Blast?
Hanabi Blast was very different than this card. First of all, Shock is a lot better than put 2 1/1s into play.
Okay, well, it's interesting because I was going to agree with you. I was going to say I'd rather have Hanabi Blast in my cube than this card. Yeah, this is like one of those kind of limited red kind of... I mean, this is actually kind of a core set thing, too, where it's like you get a little bit, you might get a little bit more value depending on how things work out for you. That's the the chance part of playing the chaos in red, and it's part of the color wheel. So that is Molten Rebirth. Moving on to Ogre Battle Driver, we have another Hill Giant at the cost of red, and 2 colorless. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. I think I'd rather have Anger in my cube than play this card.
Really? I don't like that guy.
You kind of like this guy? I mean, he's not terrible. He's Hill Giant. But I think I'd still rather have something that's a little more consistent I can count on.
Like, how sweet is this?
Like, who's the 3 casting cost guy from Dragon's Maze that has haste and makes all your creatures attack every turn? Makes all your creatures have haste and he has to attack every turn?
No, it's all creatures you control gain haste and have to attack every turn.
Either way.
Yeah.
I think that might still be better.
I don't know. +2/+0 is, like, not insignificant.
No, I agree.
Like, curve this guy into, what's it? Siege Gang Commander? Woo! Sussy. Like,
good.
I
Alternatively, pass this card and then...
The obvious comparison is this versus Hellrider, right?
Oh, that's not a comparison. You can't compare those things.
I don't know. I think they're close. Or at least they're, like, comparable. Bonus damage for your attackers, things that are good with more, like, tokens or more attacking in general.
I mean, the fact that he's not a 1/2 for 4 is pretty good.
Yeah.
So this card is literally just an enchantment in the Web of War from, what is it, Betrayers of Kamigawa, I think? Yeah, Betrayers of Kamigawa.
Nice shot.
That limited format was so annoying that card was definitely very good in it.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
New Sliver creature.
Also known as Limited Bomb Sliver.
Oh, wow, this deals damage to creature. I thought this was Hellrider Sliver.
No, Thorncaster Sliver is just a 2/2 for 5, but whenever a Sliver creature you control attacks, it can deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So that's happening.
This boat is real.
Alright, so far from today's cards, up until this point, Liliana's Reaver is like the only one. Let's scroll down to like we would even consider for cube.
We very briefly
No. Keep going down. No.
Yeah.
All right. So Liliana's Reaver was the first one that's serious consideration. This next coming card is got to be the one that's probably the most talked about so far as this new crop of cards for cube, and that would be Young Pyromancer, who initially when I saw it, and maybe the spoil got changed, but I saw a 1/1 for 2. But this card is actually a 2/1 for a red.
I saw a 1/1 as well.
You also saw a 1/1? Yeah, I feel like that was what it was
initially. This is now way better.
Right.
Wow. That is a real card. And the fact that the tokens don't die at end of turn.
Yes.
I really like that card.
Okay, well that was already a lot more than I thought I was going to get out of you. Maybe it's a super sweet one with this Ogre Battle Driver you're all about too. So Young Pyromancer, for those uninitiated, we're talking about a 2/1 for red and a colorless. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 red elemental creature token onto the battlefield. End of story.
I like it.
It doesn't die at end of turn. It doesn't have a can't block. It doesn't.
Right.
It just makes guys.
I just think that's a great way for the red deck, to continue advancing its board position when it has to spend time and mana to remove blockers.
I mean, it's just red Jade Mage to me. That's the red mage doesn't want to spend his live long day, tapping a bunch of mana to make guys slowly. He wants to be using his spells effectively like he always is. And it's actually, that's a good point in chat. It seems like an excellent card for that kind of homely red-blue color combination in cube right now.
Mm-hmm. Counter a spell, get a 1/1.
Oh yeah, I like it.
Draw a card, get a 1/1.
Yeah, and he's efficiently costed a lot more than Tulrand. And then there's Gutter Snipe, who is just more of a win more card. Mm-hmm. We found with Gutter Snipe.
So I like that guy. Into the Wilds. Beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it into play. For 3 and a green. No thanks. It's like a funky Oracle of Moldiah that is also an enchantment. Primeval Bounty, another enchantment. This one This one costs 6. Whenever you cast a creature, get a 3/3 green beast.
Boom.
Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control.
Boom.
Whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, gain 3 life.
Boom. All upside all the time.
I mean, those are 3 really powerful effects. Is it really worth 5 and a green?
That's the question. The better question is this worth Academy Rectoring into?
We are always on the lookout for things to do with Academy Rector.
The only thing I don't like about 6-mana enchantments that don't actually do anything when you cast them is when they continue to not do anything if you brick. Like, there's one thing to be like, oh, this card's a terrible top deck, it's never going to do anything. There's another thing to be like, well, I've paid all this mana to cast a spell and didn't do anything. But it's okay. Real soon it's going to be amazing. And then it still doesn't do anything. And you're like, ah, oh, damn it.
Yeah, like, I think this card's good, but not great because of the reasons you described and the fact that it costs 6 mana. It's certainly interesting, and it certainly maybe has a home. It's very different.
If only it was an enchant land, and that Johnny guy could make more tutus when we enter the battlefield.
Okay. That seems unnecessary. 4/4/4, whatever.
It's a beast.
Savage summoning can't be countered. They every once in a while, it feels like every couple of years they print this card, like Overmaster or whatever, like.
I don't know. This seems kind of like Summoning Trap. Do you mean?
Yeah, or like Scout's Warning, like ways to cast your creatures at its speed. Like Summoning Trap's a little bit different.
So Savage Summoning, for those listening, is a single green for an instant. Savage Summoning can't be countered. So you'd think some kind of blue hoser is coming down the line when you read those words. The next creature card you cast this turn can be cast as though it had flash. That spell cannot be countered. That creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Do all of those little incremental things add up to a quality card in Cube?
So, assume this card... might be a non sequitur here, but... Assume this card exists as it can't be countered, you can cast a creature at instant speed, and it can't be countered, and then a third ability... Right, so like in this case, it's the add a +1/+1 counter to it. What does the third thing on the card need to be in order for it to be good?
Draw a card.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with it. I mean, draw a card is the obvious one. Like, would you accept less than draw a card?
Well, we look at it this way. Would you accept Scout's Warning?
Oh, take the countering thing off?
Yeah.
Would you accept enters battlefield and then it fights?
Oh, well, duh. Like, if this card didn't have add a +1/+1 counter, and in lieu of that had this creature fights another creature, that would be excellent, because now it would work in both beatdown strategies as well as, anti-counter strategies, is where, like, playing against an aggressive deck, you're just playing Battle Growth that can't be cast on a guy that's already in play, which is just awkward. I mean, giving a guy haste on this card doesn't also do anything for me either, because you want to be able to cast it with flash. You want to, like, surprise jump it in at a turn.
What if it was untap a land?
That wouldn't
so it was free.
That wouldn't do anything for me either.
Gaze Cradle. Ooh.
I still like Scout's Warning over this card, just because, if you're playing Scout's Warning, you're playing against the creature decks where, in a circumstance where they are going to tap out for something because they don't fear anything.
Yeah.
And you don't need the can't be countered part because you're playing smart magic. You're going to be able to take advantage of it, and you get to replace itself, and just your guy just pops up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I like Savage Summoning as a card. I think it's kind of cool they're doing stuff like that, even in a core set. It just doesn't do enough for me in Cube. I think if you really stop and look at it like this weird Battle Growth variant, and maybe give your guy flash, it just doesn't quite do enough.
Sporebound. 3/3 for 5, whatever land enters the battlefield, put a put a 1/1 sapling into play.
Next.
Infinite with life and limb on the spot, by the way.
Really? Whenever a land enters the battlefield... Oh, because life and limb says that your saplings are also forests?
Right, so interestingly enough, though, it's infinite, but also you draw the game.
Because it's an unstoppable chain.
It's an unbound loop.
Yeah.
So you need a way to kill life and limb with Spore Man.
So for everyone that misses Divine Intervention decks in Modern, you have the opportunity to recreate them with a 4-mana green enchantment and a 5-mana vanilla green creature.
Woodborn Behemoth. Turkwood Boars, as long as you control 8 or more lands, it's an 8/8 trample.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a magic card.
Guardian of the Ages. This card's horrible.
Oh, poor the new Elder Landworm. Yes, it is bad. We're talking about this is an artifact creature rare. It's a 7/7 for 7 that whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, if Guardian of the Ages has Defender, it loses Defender and gains Trample. Ta-da!
Yeah. Ring of Three Wishes. 5-mana artifact comes into play with 3 wish counters. Pay 5, tap it, remove a counter. Demonic Tutor.
So it's the slightly cheaper planar portal that you can only use a few times.
But really, if you get to use it all 3 times, you should probably just kind of win the game.
Right, in actual limited, you really only needed to activate planar portal like twice to really lock it up. If you had the time...
The first time you get a removal spell, the second time you get your best guy.
Exactly. The first time you activate planar portal...
Anything past that is just total gravy.
The first time you activate portal, you get the card that keeps you in the game. The second time you activate portal, you get the card that wins you the game. And the third time you activate it, you hope to grab Crawworm or something.
Right.
We have
Sliver Construct,
generic
creature type
Sliver
Construct, which I enjoy. Okay, that's just okay.
So,
they literally wrote that on a napkin, and it just went straight into the design file.
Sure. We have another one of the trinkets. Then we have Vial of Poison, which I think is a really sweet flavor card.
Yeah.
You can Trinket Mage for it. Then you could activate it on your Triskelion, and then your Triskelion could go nutso. It's not happening, but it's cute. It's cute.
Yeah. For those who haven't seen it, 1 mana artifact, pay 1, sack it, target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn.
Ding!
Past this, we've got...
So we got some of the game day promo spoils.
Hive Stirring, which we already talked about.
That's the colorless one. And then with the very last card that's currently on this... No, there are more cards.
Goblin Diplomats.
Yeah, this was actually last night.
2/1 for 1 and a red.
So we have a Goblin Piker that can tap to make each creature attack this turn if able. So kind of like Mega Nettling Imp.
Meh.
I'm not going to make it in cube. It's cute. It's
cute.
fun.
It's going to screw up a lot of limited games.
Yeah.
I like Alluring Siren was always just annoying as all hell.
Oh yeah, I mean you want to be able to break stalls in Core Set Limited, and if this format's maybe a little bit slower than previous limited formats, then a card like this is nice to have, even though it's rare. But having that kind of effect is good. For Cube, not so much.
Ratchet Bomb reprint.
Good for Ratchet Bomb.
Take that, Advent of the Worm.
Yes.
Colossal Whale, also known as the new Your Mom joke card.
I endorse it.
5 and double blue for a 5/5 Island Walk. When it attacks, exile target creature defending player controls until Colossal Whale leaves the battlefield. So that thing's quite the bomb if you can attack with it.
Colossal Whale...
Oh, actually, it's Island Walk, not Island Home, so yeah.
Yeah.
That thing's just a bomb.
They stripped the home.
Yeah. I forgot the sudden ability anymore.
Colossal Whale is probably my favorite card in all of M14 right now.
Like, flavor-wise?
Oh, the complete package.
I mean, like, it's
the artwork is spectacular.
It's a street beating, also. I mean, could you imagine facing that thing in Unlimited? Like, you have to jump it because it's a 5/5, and it's eating... Like, it gets your best guy and worst guy every turn. That's pretty rough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like me a Colossal Whale. I don't know if it's really cube-worthy. 7 mana blue creatures. We already just got Aether Language's 7 mana blue creatures, so you got to try pretty hard to get in at that casting cost. But, it's worth a shot.
Wind Raider Sphinx.
So we've got
Speaking of 7 mana blue creatures.
Yeah, we have double blue at 5 for a 3/7 flyer. What this card isn't dying to, I'm not entirely sure. But, okay. And then every time a creature with flying attacks, it doesn't have to be yours.
No.
You may draw a card.
So you get both sides.
All I'm saying is Lingering Souls.
Yeah.
Turn 3, Lingering Souls. Turn 4,
Flashy.
Lingering Souls. Fog, maybe?
Yeah.
Turn 5, Unburial Rites this guy?
Okay, the other turns obviously had a lot of stuff going on in them.
Sorry. Turn 1, Faithless Looting. Turn 2, Mulch.
There we go, okay.
Maybe
Grizzly Savage.
How about Tracker's Instincts?
You gotta go deeper. This is how it's
Go deeper. Oh, go deeper.
Right,
so that way you could like turn 3 Grizzly Salvage again, and then turn 4 double Lingering Souls from your graveyard.
Sure, why not?
These things are real. You could definitely do that.
This is quite the 5-color deck we just brewed.
Now, of course, that's all standard and not at all cube.
Yeah.
As far as cube goes, that's a big butt.
It cannot lie.
But at the same time,
that's a small front.
Yeah.
All backside, no front side is not the way to be as a cube card.
I mean, this is definitely the most like upfront thieving magpie there ever was. But, you know, that's what you get for 7 mana.
Yeah. Last but not least, Scourge of Valkus. 2 and triple red for a 4/4 flying dragon. Whenever it or another dragon enters the battlefield under your control, deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control, and then it has fire breathing.
Step one, overload. What is the dragon size or whatever?
Oh, Dragon Shift.
Dragon Shift, and then cast this guy. What?
Deal like 5 damage, maybe.
I don't know. This is barely a Magic card. It's mostly a flavor-filled dragon.
The fact that this only does 1 damage when you play it to something is really disappointing. The fact that it doesn't have haste. The fact that you have to jam a deck full of dragons somehow. Like, it's like some kind of weird, like... Obviously that effect is not really there for limited.
The fact that it only has 4 toughness when we're pretty sure we're going to see a Flame Slash real soon. Maybe this had been a 3/5. It would be a lot better.
How about just a 5/5? Like, Thundermaw Hellkite is laughing all the way to the bank at this guy. He's like, yeah, nice follow-up, guys.
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You can't all be winners.
Yeah.
So that does us for M14. Long story short, it looks like we've got 2 cards that we're interested in from this new round of spoilers.
So far. And I mean, we're still very early in the spoiler season. I mean, most of these are leaks.
Both of them are aggressively costed creatures that make creature tokens.
Yeah, go figure.
And 1 Colossal Whale.
That's going to be the new pet card.
I really want to find a way to put it in a cube.
If you control Colossal Whale and Raging Cougar at the same time, you win the game.
Oh, wow.
If Colossal Whale eats a Raging Cougar, you win the game.
I endorse all these things.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, I was just kind of brainstorming on Twitter last week. How do you feel about adding Benelish Hero to Cube? wait. You have to go look it up?
The banding thing?
Yeah.
No. What? I don't want to explain banding to people. Nor do I want to play with that. It's a 1/1 banding for 1, right?
Yeah.
Why? What? Why? Why you do this?
Why?
Yeah.
Because it would be sweet. Because banding is actually a good ability.
Yeah.
Like, it would give kind of a little bit more of a reach to white weenie strategies. I mean, there was counterpoints made on the internet that Shield Bearer is probably a considerably better card. Do you know what that does, Eck?
0-2 for 2 with banding?
Now, why don't you show the people at home? And then once you show them, then I'll...
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. How much Masters...
You need either more hours at work or something, I don't know. Like,
how many...
Here we go. Alright. Oh, my mistake. An 0-3 for 2.
Oh, nigh unstoppable in combat.
I mean, like, just look at how big the Oracle text for banding is.
It's a lot.
Like, I don't want War and Peace like the Magic cards. Like, Cube is already confusing enough without banding or phasing now, thankfully.
There's like 2 or 3 good phasing cards. Like, one of the best phasing cards is just Reality Ripple.
Oh, Rainbow of Freed.
Oh,
because that's the one
that was like pre M10 rules. That card was actually good, but it didn't have anything that has classic phasing. Kind of by its nature, isn't good. But anything that can phase out by choice, by its nature, is good.
Yeah.
So you've got that going for you. Long story short, banding's strong.
I'm walking away from the show if you put that on the queue.
I really want... If Shield Bearer cost 1 white, it would be a different story. But then again, Magic Design, even back in the day, they knew O3 banding for one, too good. Too good.
Why don't you just put like slagworm armor in the cube? You could trick a page for it.
You can't attack, though.
Neither can.
Bedlish Hero could attack, though.
Oh, my mistake. The 1/1 could attack, yes.
Well, not a segue better could there be than going from talking about Bedlish Hero to the death of the oldest format in all of Magic. But really, the big question of the week is Vintage dead? Is Cube the new Vintage? How are these things related or unrelated? Is it real? Is it not?
So one of the things that sparked this conversation and this point of discussion is the Bazaar of Moxon event, which was a few weeks ago now.
Looks like the 12th.
Yeah. So a little about 2 weeks ago in Europe, and it's the big vintage event of the year
in that area. Now, it's also good to point out that prior to this year, the big North American one was held at Gen Con, the Vintage Championships,
right,
which they've been kind of supporting pretty well. I mean,
not anymore. Yeah, I mean, you saw the.
I was getting to that. Yes.
Oh, right. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
So another sign, Magic is reaching 20 years old, and this hallowed ground of Magic playing for the Vintage format is now being lifted, and the Vintage and Legacy World Champ, or whatever they want to call it, will not be held at Gen Con this year, as per an announcement from Wizards of the Coast, and it has yet to be rescheduled with a new location.
And I think...
Not, to be fair, they said they will. The tournament will take place, but it's just not the same.
I just... my opinion on Vintage is just... I don't necessarily mind, you get to play with everything. It's restricted cards instead of banned cards and things like that, or the potential problems that come with it. Because I see that Legacy is a fixed Vintage. I think it mostly has to do with card availability, and specifically Vintage tournaments. If you're playing in a no proxy environment,
which is what's very popular in Europe, which is what makes an event like the Bazaar of Moxon kind of the benchmark for Vintage, because in theory you're the most serious people playing it. I mean, and you've probably tested the most. I mean, that's not a guarantee, but that's kind of the general rule of thumb is in Europe that Vintage and Legacy with the real cards is taken considerably more seriously than it is in North America. So you look to an event like this to really kind of be the benchmark.
And it just, to me, I don't really... There's just such a hard cap on card availability for stuff like Lotus and Moxon and Recalls and Time Walks and stuff, that it's just not going to be possible for the format to ever be... It can only get smaller. As cards, for whatever reason...
slowly disintegrate.
Yeah, either literally turn to dust. People buy them up and don't play them, are sitting on them in a collection, I mean, shit, we got Power in the Cube. That's a Vintage deck that isn't being played, So the more things that happen, that those cards are not entering the player pool at all, they're only going away. So the only way that the Vintage player pool can go is smaller. And that's just, no one is going to say that's a healthy way for a format to be. So I just don't think it's a thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean the kind of the Vintage holdouts are often the most vocal people, saying how can you debate that 300 people showed up for this event 2 weeks ago and that Vintage is dead?
300 whole people, huh?
Yeah, Magic Grand Prix.
When was the last time a Grand Prix had less than 900 anywhere?
Yes. 300 people. If you're scaling Magic tournaments proportionally, 300 is a drop in the bucket in terms of Magic tournaments. And if this is supposed to be the marquee, the big Vintage event of the year...
Even compare it to Legacy events. When they do Legacy GPs even, or big Legacy tournaments and other events, they get... what was there was one in Europe that had 2,000 people, right?
Over, yeah, it was 22 and change.
No, I mean, and that's almost entirely a function of availability, of card availability. There just aren't, 2,000 something Black Lotuses running around for these people to play with,
In that one event space.
In that one area. There's not 2,000 Time Walks. There's not. So there's just. It can't by the function of the card availability and just the reality of that, it can only go down.
And that's not even, talking about, is the format stagnant? Is there room for growth? Are cards ever printed for vintage? What are things really like?
I mean, I think cards are printed, maybe not necessarily for vintage, but vintage decks certainly use new cards, as we can look at. You've got the deck list
they
right
can
here.
use new cards, but I feel like it's been a long time since it's been like, oh, this card is definitely going to have great vintage impact.
As Deathrite Shaman is a 4 of...
Don't get me wrong, I love it. I feel like back at the Pro Tour Return to Ravnica, I didn't call it before the event, but during that event, it was like, wow, this card really does everything. You could see it in all Eternal formats, and I'm glad to see it is here. That's not really my question. I mean, I look at cards like Spell Pierce and Snapcaster Mage being like, those are cards that are really strong and could see action in vintage, but they aren't printed specifically for vintage. I don't think anything is really done in that vein anymore.
No.
Because Wizards is definitely just really taking their eye off of the whole thing. It's just gonna...
If cards are printed for Eternal formats, they're printed for Modern and or Legacy. Deathrite Shaman being the most obvious example of that. They've already said this very clearly a card they were printed with Modern in mind, and it's also just obviously good in other formats as well.
Fetch lands.
Right.
So, yes, here we are, 20 years later in Magic, and really the holdouts are kind of few and far between. I feel like Vintage is just kind of being just kind of let out to pasture, just to kind of go and do its own thing. I mean, again, if we're I'm not, sites are still covering this event. Yeah, it's a sweet Staffin in.
Well-played Staffin.
Dude, it kills Bob.
That's a bold choice.
Double workshop into Staffin in, kill Bob, draw cards. We used to intuition for Fire Ices all day long. Good times.
Yeah, I mean, Modern...
Modern is the controllable Eternal format.
Right. So the biggest difference between Modern and, say, Legacy... Legacy, they'll ban cards and they'll adjust the ban list and things like that. But they've explicitly kind of described Modern as a curated Eternal format, where they're very active in terms of what's legal and what's not legal, to try and shape the metagame as much as possible, to not let it get away from them. And that's not to say Legacy, the metagame is completely run amok, but it's just... there's just so many decks, and it's so wide open and so crazy that it's not necessarily that big of a concern.
See, this top 4 list, this Jace control deck is very... many vintage decks look just like this. And you're only really even manipulating 8 to 10 to 12 cards at most in your deck. You're just playing this,
You have every box, you've got an Ancestral Recall. It's how many of these cards can you really change? You know what I mean?
Not many. I mean, this one doesn't have the Tezzeret anymore.
It's playing 2 Lightning Bolts and a Hurkyl's Recall.
Yeah, again, we played 2 Intuition. We've done some riffs on this many times when we're brewing for Vintage.
Just take all the best cards ever and slave them together.
Yeah.
It's got the Time Vault, the Voltaic Key.
Oh, yeah, everybody does. I like Oath over all these decks anyway. My point is, I think Q is really where the new Vintage is. All the things you could do in Vintage, minus maybe Bomberman.
I do absolutely love Bomberman.
But you don't want to put it in Cube.
Well, no.
What the hell are you going to do with Auriok Salvagers in Cube?
Nothing. But this is one of my favorite, kind of halfway competitive, halfway for fun decks thrown together with draft chaff from on Moto.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Fifth Dawn came out, you were actually playing a little bit of Vintage, and you were super stoked to find out there was a deck that was playing Salvagers and Trinket Mage in Vintage.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've definitely played, this. When Mirian was in Standard, I definitely played this deck with Standard cards, so obviously a little less powerful, but, it was just all value, just Trinket Mage for Aether Spellbomb and Pyrite Spellbomb, cycling value all over the place with various stations.
Ah, yes.
And stuff like that. That deck was very, very fun.
So, now we're at a point in Magic where, I love Vintage.
Also, complete deck price, $14,650. Remember when we talked about how much it costs to put a cube together?
Yes.
I
don't know where they're getting those prices are. It seems a little high, but again, I love Vintage. Again, in the last 24 months of Grand Prix, and ones I've attended or ones I've just looked at the side event schedules of, there have been very few opportunities to play a Sanctioned Vintage event. And that's really, to me, like a really strong sign that this format is just something that Wizards is going to happily discontinue acknowledgement of in the foreseeable future, in my opinion.
I mean,
the people that are going to be really kind of strong advocates for it are going to be just that in the future. I think that the more Commander, EDH, whatever you want to call it, gets played, the more that becomes kind of the front runner for the non-constructed, based, everyday run-of-the-mill PTQ format.
It's going to take a lot for anything to adjust the Vintage banned or restricted list at this point.
They just unrestricted something in the last update. They just gave us back regrowth. Go wild.
Okay.
Yes, they are bringing power to Moto, but they're not bringing power. It's like I don't really agree with people saying like, oh well, they're bringing power to Moto. That means Vintage is going to be Moto. People are going to play Vintage all the time on Moto. No, it's like the Power Cube drafting on Moto. Like people are going to want to do it for a little while. There will be novelty there, but really quickly it's going to be like, well, this is just degenerate and no way fun.
Yeah.
Like, why would I put real money into playing these matches?
Right. And it's not like it's going to be like, get your set of Moxit for $10 on Moto. It's going to cost a ton if it even, is acquirable in that fashion. So.
Either way, what I'm saying is, I think that there's still a great way to enjoy power and what feel like vintage matches. And to me, that's really what Cube and Powered Cube can kind of evolve into. And that's why I really think that we've done an excellent job incorporating cards like Oath of Ghouls into Cube. I don't think there's a really good way to do that with Time Vault. But, we're finding a way to do that. And I think that's the future, to me, of what Vintage Magic is going to be. It's not going to be like, oh, well, I drew the Trinisphere draw versus your single Force, or like your no Force of Will hand, or you drew the double Force hand versus my single Force for Tinker hand. Like, oh, well, this was exciting. 40 people will come to, not even a Grand Prix, will come to like a Worlds weekend and play. That would have to be sanctioned. Like, just, you have these tiny, tiny pockets of people that play their like small proxy communities locally. Talk about it on like one website about Vintage, and then you have one or two events a year that are like sanctioned and kind of given them some publicity, and that's so community driven right now. That's not really backed or supported by Wizards of the Coast, and it's only going to lessen, and I think at an accelerated rate as Magic reaches larger audiences with newer formats and continues to push out products for those newer formats.
Vintage is basically impossible to get into.
Virtually impossible. It's not impossible. It's virtually impossible. It's to start from scratch.
Impossible.
To start from scratch today to choose to play Vintage. I mean, you gotta have someone to play against.
Right, you have to buy 2 decks.
Yeah, is almost impossible. I know, Heather Dawn from Legit MTG. She has a love for the old Magic cards, which I enjoy. But she's coming at it from a budget perspective. She's having difficulty effectively testing these things, kind of doing it through like Google Chat and stuff like that. Are we stopping to look at what the Iron Sheik has to say about Daft Punk?
I just saw that.
It could be entertaining. I don't know. Yeah. So that's where we're kind of at, and it's funny to me how much people kind of want to clash over like, Vintage is still alive and thriving. Look at how diverse the format is. Look at how many people should have been.
4 whole decks of this topic.
Almost 300 people for the biggest event in all of the land with the most Vintage cards.
Like, yeah.
And I love it. I wish I could play Sanctioned Vintage. I mean, I enjoy the format. I just don't think it's the future of where Magic is, and that's what allows Cube to kind of fill that hole and kind of have an opportunity to really do a whole lot with Magic's history and kind of even step up the game a little bit more in what you can do with it. And that's why I like exploring those areas. And maybe it just means finding a way to better incorporate a Tolarian Academy in the future, or finding a Yogg-Will strategy that isn't all or nothing. I don't know.
Why rob a bank? Just rob the Bazaar of Moxley. I mean, that's pretty close. The cost of it is, not even in the top couple of problems with where Vintage is at right now. I mean, obviously it's a huge deal, but it doesn't matter how much the cards cost if no one can get them anyway. Like, it wouldn't matter if there were, 50,000 people who wanted to play Vintage actively and had like briefcases full of money. There just aren't enough cards like physically on the planet to support that number of players.
And we're already running into that with Legacy, which is openly talked about all the time, and that's a format that you can really cut the relationships because you have an entity in Star City Games attempting to run those events all the time and really kind of pushing the boundaries of how many people can have access to this on a competitive scale.
Yeah, and Legacy is it's a lot more accessible. It is having some card availability issues at this point, but they're much the card pools are so much larger.
Well, and it's a secondary market paradise. Like an entity like Star City Games, it has every reason to support and kind of nurture Legacy because they have so much more control over the entire format than they do over Standard and the cards that get printed in it and the way they're distributed. Legacy is a small enough kind of corral to wrangle that it's like, well, we know we can have a good surplus of this stuff that's hard to get in all these other places that we can then kind of redistribute to have for our events.
I mean, I think it's just a function of any format, obviously Magic cards are printed as to the demand that exists when the set gets released, or close to it, or as close as possible, right? It's not like they're just printing...
He says this on the eve of Modern Masters.
Well, I mean, but because demand now is so much larger than it was even from when those sets... Modern Masters is only Alara Black backwards, which is 4 years at this point. Mm-hmm. And even in those 4 years, demand and player base has gone up and up and up. And it's just going to be a continual problem when you have, quote-unquote, eternal formats, like long-form, rather than just standard or block, where, okay, right now... Modern, there's 1 million players who want to play Modern, so we're going to print enough cards so that 1 million players can play Modern. Okay? And then, if you continue 10 years down the line, now 5 million people want to play Modern, but there's only enough cards to support a fifth of that still in the... We have to make more reprints, or we have to, change the system.
And they have the capacity. They have the capacity and the ability to do that. I mean, we're not even going to have a conversation about this reserve list thing. Legacy
is already running into some of the earlier problems that have besieged Vintage, and it's only going to get worse as the player base grows and the cards pool shrinks. It only goes down.
Yeah, and while I don't see a motive for Wizards to really come out on their website and be like, we're just done with Vintage.
Oh no, they'll never say that.
They've effectively done that, especially with the announcement about. Vintage World Champs. I mean, I would be astonished if the announcement came back and be like, you know what? You know how much you like that Pro Tour and how snazzy all that information is? Well, bam! Now you get that with Legacy and Vintage Championships. We're going to cover the hell out of this thing. It's going to be super exciting.
We're flying everybody out to Puerto Rico and have a crazy thing.
It's going to be 4 days of intense feature match coverage, and you're going to love every minute of Turn 1 Tinker for Blightsteel Colossus. I just
don't see it.
Yeah. So, that was more of a rant about Vintage than I thought it was going to be more about the excitement that is what Vintage and Cube kind of becoming married together can offer you. But that's kind of, that's part of the pitch to me why you'd have a Powered Cube, why you would want to play with all those great cards from Magic's history that don't necessarily have an active home right now, and where you'd really want to... Okay, again, Eck is a little obsessed with the Iron Sheik, and I can only read it in bits, so it's really
distracted.
Hard. ADD generation.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's a great place for CE power and that kind of stuff. I mean,
there's a lot more because Cube is an unofficial format. There's a lot more you can get
unsanctioned.
Right, you can get away with a lot more. They could theoretically have a new collector's edition that came out. And, the Cube starter box, and it's just a bunch of effectively very nice looking.
Man, how gross would that be if they did another collector's edition style that was the Magic Cube?
Right,
that came
the Moto
nice.
They printed the Moto
Power
Cube
Cube
and just printed them in gift boxes for the holidays.
$400.
Right, and they can do that. They're just all they're not real cards, or they're effectively very nice proxies. And you just start with that. Comes in a nice box and everything, sleeves. And then, like,
Xbox One Cube starter set.
Right, like, they could absolutely...
What would you rather?
They could absolutely do that. Whereas, they just can't do that because of secondary markets and everything else with, vintage and legacy. If they, I don't see them doing a Cube product like that probably anytime soon, But then again, I never thought that they would be printing, like, EDH starter decks either.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I definitely, the initial reaction to the Commander product was like, wow, I can't believe you're going there. And it really kind of opened up the door for all these other kind of product opportunities that I think are possible for Cube.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they're going to show us anything from Vintage? Probably not. But
You never know. I mean...
Well, the reserve list, we do know.
But I mean...
And that's kind of where the part of the problems are. I'm just saying, like, here I am talking about how Vintage is going to die, but I still think picking up a Mishra's Workshop and picking up a Bazaar of Baghdad are worthwhile ventures because those can be fun cube cards to play with in what will eventually, to me, feel like the eternal format of Magic. I think that's what Vintage will feel like to me in a few years. I mean,
Cube just feels so much more fresh to me than, like... I feel like, we looked a little bit at the Bazaar of Moxen Vintage top 8, and I feel like I've been looking at those deck lists for 10 years. Or close, close to.
It's all a matter of perspective, Eck. It's all a matter of perspective. Somebody else is going to come talk to you and be like, hey, look at all those exciting new cards that weren't there in last year's deck list.
They changed.
There's like 8 new cards
whole
there.
cards, yeah. Woo! So, Cube is a great way to play with power and play with old cards that you never get to play with anymore, but in a context that is more relevant to modern Magic, and in a way that is fun for more people, it's more accessible, it just... Only one person has to spend all the money to let everybody play, as opposed to everybody ponying up 10 Gs.
Strip your vintage decks. Build powered cubes.
It's a lot more fun.
More fun to be had by all.
Yeah.
That's the vintage soapbox. I will miss vintage. I don't think that... again, with all the Grand Prix I've gone to, I think the last Grand Prix I went to with a vintage side event that I played in was like 2010. There was like 30 people.
Yeah.
5 rounds? Yeah. 3-1-1.
It's just, it is what it is, and it's unfortunate, it's not that I am taking pleasure in seeing vintage, like, grow old and die. It's not that at all.
No, I don't think
you have to face the reality of it. Like,
I'll never have another opportunity to watch Eck deck himself in a format with Maltani's presence.
Mm-hmm. That was fun.
Never get to watch I sit down across from an opponent and go turn 1 Swamp, Dark Ritual, Hypnotic Spectre, go.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that in Cube right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, what a surprise!
Yeah, so...
Hey!
Yeah. It's just... Yeah.
Sorry, I should have said Bayou. It was a Bayou.
The
last time someone did that...
again.
The last time someone did that to me, it was a Bayou, and I believe they had Naturalized in their deck.
Still do that in Cube.
Okay. Not Scrubland and Swords of Plowshares and Disenchant. Bayou.
Still do that in Cube.
They might have had Regrowth in their deck, too. I can't remember.
Still doing that in Cube.
Yeah, that's true. All right. That's going to wrap us up for this week on the Magic Box. Feel free to chime in with your feelings on the strength, the health, how powerful Vintage is as a format, and how you play it every week with your friends and family, and how you're looking forward to making an even stronger comeback in 2013 with 20 years of Magic and power coming to the MTGO platform. Until then, you can find us every week on Twitch TV at twitch.tv/Eckamon. We're on MTGcast from time to time. They've been pretty good about posting our stuff lately, so thanks to them. Check us out on Twitter at Tristan Gregson for myself and at Young Mecca for Eck. Feel free to send all your love and hate mail to draftcube@gmail.com.
One thing, just as a heads up, as you may have noticed, obviously this is not a Wednesday.
Oh, yes.
This is a Tuesday if you're on the live side of things.
We will probably be moving to this day a little more permanently.
Yeah, because of adjustments in schedule, I have a new job, and
I have a
T-Bone here is going back to school.
Shifted school schedule.
So Wednesdays are kind of no longer going to be our day. So
it's probably going to be Tuesdays.
We're going to shoot for Tuesdays, but it might change even from this point forward. So stay tuned to the social media side of things. We'll update people as best we can.
In theory, the next Cube League will start on a Tuesday.
I mean, hopefully. Like,
in theory.
We'll know a lot more next week. We'll have a lot better ability to nail down everything.
Eck changed his hairstyle because his mom got married. That's actually why that happened.
My mother was married on Saturday.
It was not to him, if that's what you're wondering from the change of hairstyle. He just
that would be weird.
Well, it sounded a little weird when we were talking about it.
So, anyway, we got cleaned up for that. But yeah, so hopefully next week we'll have a little more solid information. It may be something that, we're going back to a more of an evening time recording as opposed to during the day.
We're a little bit more up in the air. I mean, we're committed to doing this live every week, hopefully at a time that is already... I mean, we're only 15 episodes old, and we're trying to still find that sweet spot for people. We really kind of hit a groove in the last month or so with Wednesday afternoons for us, evenings for the East Coast. I mean, topping out at around 70 viewers live has been really nice. We just need to find that kind of new groove. If anything I've learned about kind of podcasting and reaching an audience, consistency is what works. As long as you're always there week after week at the same time.
That's why I kind of wanted to try and make it as clear, stay tuned, get an update, when we figure out our new time. So.
Last but not least, if you want to see us on a more consistent basis and you want to see us do more fun, exciting stuff, please donate. The link is at the bottom of the Twitch page. You can find it at the blog page, ekamon.blogspot.com. Really want to see Eck eat that cube of power.
Yeah.
He's so excited about it. And we're about to go eat copious amounts of food, drink beer, and watch a hockey game, and you're consumed about eating 9 small Wendy's patties.
That just sounds gross.
You could have a beer after.
Oh, no part of this sounds good.
So that's something we may be exploring in the future. Either way, we want to bring you more. And since we are currently trying to find a better title sponsor to work with the show, it's all coming from you guys out there. So anything you can send us as far as donations, we'll bring you more updates, more information about why vintage is or is not a thing,
more Cube Graph scenarios. More streaming when they bring Cube back on Moto so we can complain about it again. More everything.
Well, we don't know. Good things could happen.
You never know.
We don't know. But thanks again for watching.